Welcome to the CrossFit Canada podcast, telling the stories of the Canadian affiliate owners and coaches. Super excited for my guest today, Kent Aitchison, owner of TCSC Kamloops or CrossFit Kamloops. Now, before we get into the question of the day, I think everyone figures out that that's how we do it. Where did you end up in Canada for open signups?
We ended up third.
Ended up in third. Okay. Yeah. Behind some heavy hitters, I'm sure.
Yeah, we were two people behind second, and then Becca in first has quite the lead on that one.
Okay. So we started as no different than a drop into the gym. So with our question of the day. So once again, you're going to introduce yourself, your facility, and the question I'm going to go with favorite place other than Kamloops. What is your favorite place other than Kamloops? You can answer that any way you want.
A favorite place other than Kamloops in Canada, I'd probably like visits to my hometown of Lethbridge, Alberta.
Okay.
And then otherwise, Carly and I, my wife, like going anywhere warm. So usually somewhere like Arizona or Florida.
Okay. And then your name and facility, or the hard part.
Yeah, Kent Aitchison, owner of TCSC Kamloops. Our affiliate name is CrossFit Kamloops.
Cool. Yeah, I'd say my favorite place is somewhere warm. We generally go to Mexico every year, and by the time as this is recording, we're going to be going in about a month. As it airs, we'll be there at that moment. So I have two stepkids, taking them for the first time, so that's going to be a whole adventure in and of itself.
Right on.
So I always love to hear people's CrossFit origin stories. And I mean, if I read on your website, you've been doing CrossFit for quite a while. So how did you get into CrossFit?
Yeah, I started CrossFit quite a while ago. It took me a while to get doing it consistently. Okay. A lot of my life revolved around competitive swimming when I was younger and throughout university, and both as a swimmer and as a coach. So the first time I ever tried CrossFit was in the summer of 2008. And I always really, really liked CrossFit, but it was kind of like this kind of side piece to my swimming adventures. But what I loved about it, how fun it was, and there's a lot of parallels to swimming with kind of the fun. Well, I don't even know if even it's that fun of an individual sport, but the group of people that you get to kind of do shared suffering and training with and just get better and faster at things really hit home with me. And then obviously the CrossFit training made me a better swimmer in university. So largely my early CrossFit origins revolved around off-season training in the summer. And then I really liked it. I just couldn't really do it during the season. And so that was in 2008. And my wife, who was a friend of mine at the time, but quickly became a girlfriend of mine, started around that time too. And she wasn't a swimmer. So she spent more time directly getting into CrossFit herself. And then as young 19, 20-year-olds, we both really liked it. And then we thought it'd be cool to own a gym one day, but we had a lot of growing up in school to do. And so throughout those couple of first years there, I think in 2012, 2013, we got married, and then looked at doing a little bit more schooling for her. And then we ended up in Toronto, and I really struggled when I was done competitive swimming, and I thought like, oh, sweet, when swimming's done, I'll just get into working out and CrossFit. But because I didn't really have like a concrete goal in my mind for fitness or sport or just being an adult and not being a university student anymore, I struggled to find that drive to really get motivated to go. And when we moved to Toronto, because my wife was going to chiropractic school out there, we really struggled to find our footing there just because we didn't know anybody, and I couldn't find a good job. I didn't feel like I could afford a gym membership. So along with coaching CrossFit, which I was able to get my level 1 in 2012, just a little bit largely I did some like swim club groups and things like that.
Yeah.
Eventually we were able to coach at a CrossFit gym in the Toronto area. It was but it was really just part of an MMA gym. It wasn't like a regular affiliate that you would expect.
Okay.
And then the CrossFit journey was kind of crazy out in Toronto because we were trying to find like a nice community to go into. And the gym that was in Lethbridge at the time, there was a lot of really great people that were big parts of our life, but the gym itself had kind of a lot of drama with it, with marriage stuff and then ownership changes.
Sure.
We thought it was awesome, and we thought we could own a gym one day, but we're like, man, like, I don't know if this can work. Anyways, we went into Toronto. We tried to join a gym, but there was drama between the MMA CrossFit gym and this other one that was down the road, and we didn't know. And then we got accidentally just caught in the middle of that. It was awkward. And then so we went and found another gym in Markham, Ontario. It was really nice facility, great people, but I don't think they're doing well in business, and they closed after a little while. And I was like, man, like I cannot find a CrossFit gym that seems to work for me.
Yeah.
And not only that, I was struggling to find like a nice fitness consistency. Again, it was also like the dream of owning a gym just didn't seem realistic that it could work, because it seemed like they were just either laced with drama or just the business itself was hard to make a go of it. And then at this time I was coaching competitive swimming out there in Markham, and which was a lot more busy of a job than people would think. So I was struggling to find that kind of schedule, but eventually I found they go by Christini Athletics now. I actually saw them on the queue on the YouTube channel, which is great. At CrossFit Markham, because I was just kind of tired of just not being able to find any good fitness traction, doing the good life thing or whatever. And not only was that an eye-opening experience for me, just on like, I really did like change the trajectory of my life, because at that point I was like just waiting to get out of Toronto. I don't know what I was going to do. I was coaching competitive swimming, which is still a career, but I knew there should be something more in my life.
Yeah.
I thought I could be a great business owner. But the Christinis, they had the two locations. One was in Woodbridge and one was in Markham. And Steve and Chris, like both like really like high level CrossFit competitive athletes, but their mom's involved in their business and they treat everyone really well. And they don't, they're competitive, but they make sure like top to bottom is all coached and cared for. And they're a legitimate business, and they had like full-time coaches, and they didn't know at the time, but like it was like a fly on the wall. Like, man, like this can actually work and be a real business and sustainable, and you can treat people really well and seem like make a good living out of it. So I was there. I didn't go as much as I could have because I was just so busy with swimming and like Toronto, driving all over the place. Like I lived like 40 minutes away from each gym. So I only went like 2-3 times a week if I was lucky. But that experience with them made a big impact on planting the seed that we could hopefully own an affiliate one day and make it a successful, real thing, because that was such a proof of concept. And I saw Steve and Chris at the CrossFit Games last year because they had a booth there. And I'd messaged Steve a little bit over the years, but I hadn't seen him since. And then I was never able to tell him in person like this. I have a longer version of that story of like where my life was. I just didn't have a lot of like self-worth and self-value of like where my life was at as like a 26-year-old or whatever I was.
Yeah.
Like where the future of my life was going. I felt kind of lost. But their gym like really made a huge impact on me. And I remember telling them, was just like tearing up, like how thankful I was like on what the impact of their gym was. Because we're doing really well now. But and they had no idea that was kind of like something that we wanted to do one day. But it was just nice to see them and thank them in person because it made such a big impact.
You may set the record for the best first 9 minutes of conversation, because I think there's just so much in there that I'm going to try to probably dance around back and forth, but keep circling back to that initial origin story. It's so cool because when I went on your website, one of the things that like caught my eye was just like, wow, this place looks professional. And just in the layout of your gym, the pictures that you use, I mean, even the you sitting right now are in branded hat, branded sweater or jacket. Like, is professionalism a core value for you now? And was it shaped from those initial early experiences? Because it sounds like you got the best of both worlds. You saw what happens when professionalism is lacking, and you saw how professionalism can be inspiring as well.
Yeah, I think and it's been shaped over since I started owning a business as well. But the bad experiences, as much as they can kind of make you cringe thinking about them, are really valuable to see the other side of, what a business can be or maybe shouldn't be. The professionalism, I was always really into branding, and I just follow a lot of professional sports, and I really like color codes and fonts and logos and things like that.
Sure.
That definitely bleeds into our business. And my goal is always for our gym to be, Kamloops isn't that big. It's only about 100,000 people, but I want to have that kind of local notoriety, local community feel, and kind of recognition around town. But I still think that you can have that kind of professional appearance where it's like people walk in and they wonder if it's a franchise or a chain, but then you can still blow them away with friendly customer service and community and things that you could expect from a CrossFit gym that was maybe a little bit more of a hobby.
Right. So you made it from Ontario was it back to Alberta, or did you end up in British Columbia first? Take me through that gap. What brought you back to the other side of the country?
Yeah, sorry, I probably skipped some steps on the story. I just
no, it's good.
really,
yeah,
I get a little emotional thinking about the tough times I had in Toronto, and then thinking about how that gym impacted me. But
sure.
So yeah, our original plan was we were going to the chiropractic schools for 4 years long.
Okay.
And then we wanted to hey, Carly's going to be doing the clinic thing, and then I'll be the gym coach guy, business guy, and then we'll make a gym like we have now. But we were going to do it in Lethbridge, back in our hometown. So in 2017, in the spring there, Carly's ready to graduate, and we kind of had some ducks in a row to hopefully get some real estate commercial stuff going in Lethbridge. But at the 11th hour, there just wasn't really an appropriate commercial real estate option in the entire city that we could pull the trigger on without really overextending ourselves and being on either too close to another gym or another chiropractic facility or something like that. So our plan for years was to go back to Lethbridge and hopefully do the gym thing, especially once we were inspired by the Christinis. And when that didn't work out, I started looking for more competitive swim coaching jobs.
Okay.
And just so I at least had some kind of salary when we're going to kind of restart our adult life. And there was nothing really in Lethbridge or Calgary that was plausible. And we always liked the interior of BC. I don't know if you've ever been out here, but
I've been to Kelowna, and actually I think I had to drive from Kelowna to Kamloops to rent a truck just to drive right back down again.
Okay. So yeah, we always really like the Okanagan, and Kamloops isn't quite as pretty as Kelowna, but there's still a lot of the interior offers that we really like. And my dad actually has some family roots here, so I got some grandparents here and a couple aunt and uncles.
Okay.
So I was able to land a position with the competitive swim club here to kind of at least hold us down. And then at the time, Carly started inquiring about the CrossFit gyms, plural, that existed at the time in Kamloops to see if she could start her practice independently in one of them. And then that's a bit of a story too on how that all started, which sure. I can get into. So at the time, Carly is a chiropractor, but a lot of her core values and what she believes in is strength training and exercise as a form of prehab and rehabilitation, and just a huge part of her practice, and pretty much our entire team is like this, with incorporating exercise rather than just doing passive treatment. And she kind of knew that even as she just got out of school with her exercise science background too, and being in CrossFit and strength training.
Yeah.
So she didn't want to just partner up with, lack of a better way of saying it, an old guy and just do the 5-minute crack appointments and get in and out. She wanted to kind of have her own brand and niche, and really to be aligned with strength training. So there's 3 CrossFit affiliates in Kamloops at the time in 2017. So we had come out, we were kind of in Alberta for a month or two as we were moving from Toronto. So we came out here, looked for somewhere to live, somewhere to work, and then for Carly. And then we had emailed all 3 CrossFit gyms, and 2 of them never got back to us, and 1 of them did. And it was the one that we ended up kind of partnering with was not doing well. Mm-hmm. But it was a very relaxed kind of business agreement. on what Carly was just going to rent a room out of the gym there. And we literally could have just named the price and what the rental fee was, because the former owner was just like whatever you want. And the other two never really got back to us. So then we settled in there. It was called Natural Strength CrossFit at the time.
Okay.
And Carly, with a huge mountain of student debt, decided to like set up shop in there and start building a practice in a new city, which was kind of a fun entrepreneurial adventure. And I was just coaching, and I had joined as a member of that gym, but I hadn't joined the coaching team or anything like that, because it was more on the casual side of coach once or twice for a free membership kind of deal at the time. And then as we got to know a little bit of the community in the fall, there's only a few months in, we just started hearing the kind of the rumor mill that the gym wasn't doing too good, and there could be some serious consequences of that at any moment. So this was kind of in January or December, because we had all these plans holstered. Like I had like business plans and all these things ready to go for Lethbridge, because we thought that was going to happen. We talked to the gym owner, because I was worried about Carly's practice getting all kicked out. And at the time, she was pretty stressed with all that student debt and starting a new thing on her own. And she was like, "Oh, we should just move back to Lethbridge and live at her parents' house." And like, no, we got to stick this out for more than 2 months. And so we started talking to the former gym owner and about buying him out, because there had been some rumblings about that in the past. So he was kind of sleeping on it during Christmas, and so we had kind of verbally agreed to some agreements that we were going to buy him out. I was going to take over the business. I was still going to coach swimming. So I had like kind of that salary and other thing going on at the same time. And then we're going to hire the former gym owner as a coach and then enroll with that. But as we were discussing that, I literally incorporated, I have the exact date somewhere, but it was like January 17th, I incorporated to get all my bank stuff in the row and ducks in a row. And then like 2 days later, a bailiff showed up at the gym and locked the doors and told the gym owner, because it wasn't ours yet, that he had like 48 hours to pack up all the stuff and get out. So we're like, because he had missed some rent payments or something in the previous summer. So with some lawyer stuff and a whirlwind, we set up a provisional acquisition on the gym. Was tentatively ours if we could secure an appropriate space to move to. And then if we couldn't, it was hands off. And then there would have been repercussions, because it kind of screwed Carly's business up too. So from that bailiff showing up to, you can imagine a CrossFit gym, even like maybe one smaller at the time, flooring, rig, clutter, junk, every single piece of equipment. We had to pull that all out of the gym over a weekend and put it into a storage locker, or a couple storage lockers. And then it sat in there as I met our realtor the next day and started looking around town for an appropriate spot. And we're still in that spot today, but it took, so the whirlwind of it with commercial, if you've been through this process with commercial leases and insurance and negotiating commercial leases not to get taken advantage of in urgency. It was 17 days from the day the bailiff showed up to the first class that we ran, with pretty much just like floors on the ground in the version of this gym here in February 2018. And the scary part about that then was like, it's funny how your numbers can change as your business grows, maybe your life grows too. But when you're out a couple $1,000s at the time, is like really makes your butthole clench a little bit. And even though 17 days was insanely fast, the gym only had like probably 40 something members at the time.
Right.
So like, and it was on shaky grounds, because there's a lot of drama with the previous era. And there was other CrossFit gyms in town at the time. So every day that we were felt like we were on hold, I felt like if we were losing 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or more members, it was like a big percentage of the gym where it's like that first day you didn't quite have the revenue to hopefully make ends meet when you start. So that was quite the adventure at that first phase to get in there. And then I knew I could do a great job with a lot of my swimming background, like building a club and coaching, being, on a pool deck coaching, but also a lot of like dry land strength and conditioning coaching, and just building a brand and a team and making people feel good about themselves and excited about something. I knew I could do a great job at that, but there was still a lot to learn as a business owner, especially it was a double-edged sword taking over an existing gym, because as nice as it was to have like 40 or 50 people on day one giving you revenue rather than zero starting from scratch, there was just some kind of like cultural baggage and expectations of the non kind of professional approach that was a bit of a hurdle to get over with really being delicate about it, with simple things on like where to put your shoes, or you can leave your stuff at the gym, or yes, your membership automatically gets charged and things like that. And it just like you're on kind of this thin ice seemingly at the time because it seems so delicate when you're coming off all this drama. But at the same time, people really appreciate when you are obviously trying to do a great job and putting a lot of work into it. But that first little while was definitely, and still, it's a big learning curve from where you start and where you can get to. And a lot of people ask what my business background is, like if I went to business school or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I didn't. I just did like kinesiology stuff in university. I didn't do any like formal business degrees or anything. It's a lot of it's a fake it till you make it thing, and that's what kind of the beauty of business. And I feel like that's a beauty of a lot of the CrossFit affiliates too. There's no franchise or chain requirements. There's a certain expectation of the brand from a clientele perspective, but it's kind of the Wild West on the affiliate model. And that's really what I love about it, that you can make it your own and take advantage of the great things and maybe avoid some of the bad things. And it's been quite a little over 7-year adventure so far.
Wow. If I wasn't at a standing desk, I'd be on the edge of my seat. But I think I'm hearing some really interesting things that a lot of folks are like, the tens of people listening are going to be like, wait a second, I want to know more about that. But you're the first one, I think, who has used the word brand and used it repeatedly. And, difference between branding and marketing. And I mean, my perception of a brand is almost like a flag that you can wave and salute to use an analogy, right? It's like the brand of Nike and what it stands for versus, say, the marketing plan that goes along with it. How much because you already said like you were a bit of a brand nerd in terms of fonts and colors. How much did establishing a brand before you had a business help just give you something to move towards, if that question makes sense?
Yeah, that's cool. I just think, again, I'll go back to my swimming background. I remember I was only like 22 at the time, but when I made this, but I was a head coach of a summer swim club in Lethbridge.
Okay.
And I started coaching like little kids when I was like 15. And then by the time I became age 19 or 20, they gave me the head coach reins. And then I pretty much did that all the way through university and until I moved through Toronto, which it can kind of be treated as like a little Mickey Mouse summer job, but I was really like obsessive and went all out with it, which I do with a lot of things.
Okay.
And because I'd been there so long, even as a kid coaching, really, I was a teenager coaching. And as if you're involved with youth sports, a lot of the youth sports are like parent board driven.
Okay.
But there's like kind of like generations where like the president, vice president, and treasurer and all that stuff, they kind of reset with different parents coming in. And because I was the kind of the stable force and I did a great job, they were like, it's your club, do whatever you want. So I had this little like rebranding adventure with the swim club to kind of dive into some of our core values at the time, and being like this like really competitive, but also very like get everybody involved and care about everybody and don't get everybody FOMO and hype everything. And I remember in 2011 or 12, I made like this branding guide line with like fonts and logos, and you can't put them upside down, and like typography for certain documents and all this stuff. And I saved it. And then actually to this day, they actually still use, because I see their stuff on social and stuff, to that kind of branding. And just because previously, when I was coaching, each year the swim club would kind of have like a different logo or different shirt color or different kind of font on their shirts. So then if we go to a swim meet, we'd have it, and we eventually had a really big club. There'd be a big swarm of kids, all with like different mishmash of colors. They didn't really look like a team. It drove me nuts. And then so once I was able to like brand it, dial it in, and have it in more consistency, that group effect of being at a team and recognizing where each people was in a lane or where they were on the pool deck. It's hard to measure, but there's definitely a big impact on performance on that, but also just where people feel involved or part of something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think on a gym level, we can have that brand where it's consistent and people kind of recognize it with each other or around town, especially in a community like Kamloops. My goal has always been, I want to have that local recognition of if you see like that acronym, that you kind of, even if you haven't been here, you know where it is in town, or you know a friend that goes there or something like that. And I think there's just that point of pride of when it looks professional and feels professional, you feel like you're part of something. And I just think it's like, if you have those high standards with coaching and how clean your gym is and your hours and all those, whatever the regular kind of checklist of things, but that's included in it, I really feel like it makes a big difference in the perception of your business and what you can charge and how people perceive it.
So jumping back to taking over this facility, and then you mentioned like there was some maybe old habits that came with the old crowd. What were those early days like in slowly shifting those habits versus letting the folks, let's say, like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, like, or letting the inmates run the prison.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm going to deal with the short-term pain for long-term gain to set the place up for success. So what were those early days like? And, what are some strategies because I'm thinking there's probably someone listening to this who either just took over an affiliate or might be in the process of it. And, how do they go in and put their own stamp on it and change some of those behaviors?
It's scary. Like, I consider myself a good business person, but I also am very empathetic and I care about people a lot too. So it's hard to make those decisions that are emotional, and you get like the email where you're like,
yeah,
you click and you're worried about sending it out, whether that's like a rate change or things like that. I think it just, as long as you're consistent, and this drives me nuts in any leadership role that I've learned in, good or bad, as a subordinate. For example, a big one that was an issue, in my opinion, at the original version of the gym, that a class would be running, and then the gym isn't that big, and then there's people doing their little open gym workout during a class off to the side.
Yeah.
And the whole base, like if we have a pyramid, I have a little chart. The whole base of our business success culturally and economically are great classes. So if you hurt that environment or you undermine that environment, everything that we want to do, whether that's financial or vibes, it gets killed by it. So I knew from the start that I didn't want people doing their own open gym stuff in the corner, and people were sensitive about it, but I was like a stickler on that from the start. So even if it's a one-person class, which hopefully never happens, the entire floor is reserved for the class. There's other open gym times you can do, or we have like a mezzanine and a dumbbell room and stuff like that. So that was a little like you just have to have the policy there and stick to it. So it's not like, oh yeah, like, oh, my cousin's coming in to drop in today, so they can go work out in the corner. But, I told everyone else no. Or, oh yeah, coach or me, I can go work out in the corner and do my open gym workout while the class is on. But the consistency for any of those like delicate policies have to be not only crystal clear, but abided by, especially from top down as an owner. And then your coaches should be following that too. Because if it's just a house of cards as soon as you start wavering on those things. And then it could be a simple list, like you put your bags in the cubbies, or like you make a chalk mess, you clean it up yourself. All those little things, as long as you have a clear policy and you lead by example, over time, it should feel weird if you're not doing that. Like if like a dumbbell's not in place in our gym, or like you put a 25 on top of the 15 pile on the plates, people are like, members notice and they'll switch it for us because it just seems out of place. And that's kind of what the expectation and culture is. But it for stuff like that, that's a little bit more on the sensitive side, with like usually that open gym one was sensitive, or like a money financial rate raise policy or things like that. it can be scary to do, but at the end of the day, you have to support your business because that's what feeds not only you and your staff, but people that want to enjoy the product too.
Mm-hmm. Switching gears slightly, but the same, it's like, as you mentioned, having a brand gives yourself and others something to get behind and be a part of. So for those who don't know, what's your coaching team like, full-time versus part-time, and how has that evolved over time?
I've been really proud of how that's evolved, actually. So I probably glazed over this, but we also have a clinic team integrated into our facility. So obviously my wife, Carly, was the OG and the trailblazer to kind of provide the proof of concept. Can you build a practice inside of a facility like this? So she's a chiro. Yeah. Then we also have a couple of physiotherapists, kines, massage therapists, and a naturopath as well. And so they're all independent contractors. Okay. But they're still like a big part of our team, and they preach the same values and do classes with us, and they're all awesome too. As far as our gym operations go, we have a couple of part-time coaches that help us out filling in during the week. Some of them are still in school. And then we have a handful of full-timers too. So we have myself, my wife's more of a clinician, but she's involved in the gym as well. And then we have a full-time manager, two full-time coaches, and then another full-timer that's a kinesiologist and osteopath and a coach as well. So between that, we're running like about on a Monday, for example, we run about 14 classes a day. Okay. So we have a pretty robust class schedule, and now that we have a double-sided facility, there's lots going on. Originally, when we started, this was just the double-edged sword of taking over an existing business, that all the coaches on staff, other than the owner, were coach a couple times a week for a free membership. And they're all great people. And a few of them are still with us. And I appreciate their loyalty for those days. But it was kind of like this unfair model where one coach would coach 3 times a week and one coach would coach twice. And one coach would cover the gym on an entire Saturday. This was before I was around. And there just didn't seem like a lot of fair, value of getting the free membership. So I switched a lot of those part-timers initially that they would gain credits per class coached. And if it was at least 2 classes per week, they would get a free membership. And if it was more than that, I would just kind of top them off with an e-transfer. And then once we kind of got through our gym was doing decent. We were growing, I was learning. And end of 2019, I really feel like we're oh man, we're doing well. I can feel the next phase of our gym, let's go. And then of course, we know what happened in 2020, which we did a really great job on. That's probably a whole nother episode. Just being very cavalier about rules, but respectful. And I found every loophole in the book to provide great service. I was on a mission. But so anyways, once that was kind of the light was on at the end of the tunnel with COVID, I was I had stepped away from coaching swimming at that time because I was actually doing both up until then, until 2021. And then I really wanted to elevate the professionalism of our gym to the next level for myself to make sure I could, legitimately just make a living off of doing this. And so I got rid of the coach for a free membership and then some, and converted them all into hourly employees. And then after COVID, things were getting so busy. I thought I'm not even coaching swimming anymore. I can just run this by myself. It'll be easy. But then my phone and emails were just blowing up and I was trying to coach, just drowning in the fall of November 2021 there. And then that's when I decided to hire a full-time manager. And then a year later or 2 years later, we expanded our gym. We have 2 sides. And in that transition role, I have another full-time coach. So there's a lot of opportunities for all of them between personal training and the classes and the events that we do to kind of pad their income. But at the same time, we're still grateful for some of the part-timers that have been here since even before I was around to help us out during the week too. Yeah.
That clinical model, I'm guessing, so you have these independent contractors that they also coach classes. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
the independent contractors are they're just running their own kind of businesses inside of ours, but they're like a tight knit, important part of our team. They're just not actually employees.
Okay, they participate in class, but they're not coaches.
Yeah, they participate in classes. They're independent contractors, but it's essentially a requirement that you have to do a few classes a week, even just to be like a physio here.
Right.
Just it's almost like a litmus test for, do you belong here? Like if you don't appreciate the free membership and don't love doing a few classes a week, like why would you work here? So that's like a big part of the team, and then it just makes it an easy fit. And it's not like I have to enforce it. It just naturally, those people want to do it anyway.
Well, you want it because it sounds like you want to, what I'm alluding to is finding the balance between like offering like the practitioner offering a program, we'll call it, to the participant, but knowing that the goal is always to get someone to optimize in a class because that's your core product.
Yeah.
So clearly, just having the practitioners participate and be a part of the culture of classes is the first big step. And then how do you find that balance between the two?
Oh yeah, it's huge. And I'm really grateful for all of them that are here. And Carly really paved the way to make it happen. It just, because they value exercise so much and they're part of like the class community. So even our massage therapist, for example, if client X goes in for an appointment, like, oh, like my knee's really sore, it bothered me in the thrusters yesterday's WOD, whatever. She's not saying, oh, what's a thruster, right? Like she's not just need that kind of explanation. And their goal, and they're never going to tell anyone to, oh, like you should just take a month off the gym. They should be like, well, let's do some injury assessment here, and then here's some modifications. I'll tell the coach that you regularly see, and you can still be part of the gym. Or there's like, it's the collateral of the two businesses really are nice, because if we're spending advertising money on physio or chiro or what naturopath acquisition through whatever channel, and this is part of why the professionalism of our facility is so important. If they're coming in just to see physio or naturopath and they're looking around the facility like, oh, this is cool, like what's going on here, like why is everybody laughing and the music's loud and over in that corner, there's that potential, even though it's hard to track that acquisition of that client. And then of course a lot of our gym membership also feeds them as well. So like if you hurt your knee or shoulder or something skiing or at the gym, maybe, hopefully not, most of our gym membership would prefer to see Carly or Mitch or whoever they want to in our facility. And then so that's the way their practice works, is that we have a percentage split agreement on their total income. And then it's like a rising tide lifts all boats kind of deal, that they can run their own practice and set their own hours inside of our facility and use, our gym equipment and stuff for their clients. And then it just like try to set it up for a nice win-win. And then with them being in class, they're a great ambassador of ours. As people don't know what the relationship, like whether a contractor or whether they're employees or not, when they see their team face on the wall. But if they're saying, being friendly and saying hello and making people feel welcome if they're new, that's obviously just important in general. But then it's a good way for them to build their own practice up too, just with that facial recognition and being friendly.
Mm-hmm. And then how does that help you from a retention standpoint?
The injury management. I don't know if I don't want a blanket statement, but a lot of traditional healthcare practitioners be like, oh, like
take time
hurt
off
your shoulder, stop going to the gym, just sit at home. Yeah. And then Carly's always said, like, movement is medicine. Like there's always way. And we know as CrossFit coaches, you can modify any movement. If there's wall balls in the workout and your knee hurts, we can make a substitution for that. And I still want you to be coming and moving and sweating and not getting slow and sad and unfit at home. Right. So they are good proponents of that. And it's an easy kind of like segue. It's not perfect. Some people will still take that route, but it's nice to have, like, as much as we think we have power as coaches. And I struggled with this at swimming too. Like if a physio tells you, or your doctor or your chirurgist is like, oh, this is what you should be doing, it's hard to argue with it. So they're obviously on board with some more movement-based activity.
And then, so want to think about Now, how does that take you to present day? Because as we started off, is you were third in Canada in open signups. Has the open always been, because as we record this, we just finished up the open. Has the open always been an important part of your yearly plan?
No.
Okay.
So when I originally took over, this is an excuse because I should have taken better ownership of it from the start.
Sure.
When I originally took over, I felt the open was like this high stress, eggshells, kind of like there's a handful of people that really, really, really cared about it, but not in like a positive community boost way. This is my perception.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, like in late 2010s there, in my opinion, I felt a lot of the workouts were tough on a class logistics. And I'm all about classes. And like,
right.
So like if you have like barbell, 25-foot walking lunges in the workout, for example, I can't remember which workout that is. We don't have a tiny gym, but that's really hard to run 150 people through in a day on a 20-minute workout or whatever the timeline was. So that was an excuse. I'm like, open. And then we'd still kind of run in the class, do our best, and we have our little Friday nights, but it was only like a very small handful of people. And the gym was quite a bit smaller at the time too. So it's not like we crapped on it or anything, but it wasn't really a hype thing. But I just didn't like the energy of it. It felt like there was like tears and like redos and stress and just emotions of it. So I was kind of turned off on it. And I was also kind of preoccupied with swimming because there was a lot of like provincial championships at the time would go on. So I sort of left like the pre-existing staff to do it. And in hindsight, that was a mistake. I should have been like, it's my gym, I should have taken ownership of it and made the best of it because people were going to do it. And if I would have sold it better and had a better attitude about it, it could have been like this in 2018, even like this, not as big as it is now, but this thing where everyone got involved and I would pressure everybody to do it. And like, if you can put your scores in if you want, and if that stresses you out, just don't. But I want you to come to class. You're going to try really hard because somebody's counting your reps, and we'll get these little cheers going. So and then I had a better maybe especially as I dropped swimming off, and just with reflection, I was like I wanted to do a little bit better job at the open because I know some people really care about it, but I wanted there to be that positive environment and energy. But I didn't want this like stress and tears and just negative energy. I just can't handle negativity in general. Mm-hmm. And so I was going to go like all in 2023. But at that time, we expanded our gym right at the start of the winter there with the two sides, and like renovos were kind of going over, and it kind of spread me a little bit too thin to go nuts on it. So it made it a bit of more of an event that year. And then honestly, coinciding with the CrossFit affiliate fees raising in, I think the announcement was the fall of 2023. The actual number doesn't really stress me out that much because we're fortunate to be in a good position of the size of our facility. And because we've kind of built our own brand, and I love CrossFit, but I don't have CrossFit in our business name just because I want to have ownership of and control over the narrative of what our expectations are with different services and etc. But I'm like, okay, like if we're going to keep paying this affiliate fee, there's some resources which are nice, but like the open is the one thing that really like is a separator. Like as you can run this as an affiliate and not really anyone else can. Like if they de-affiliate or if they want to do it at their house or whatever, it's not the same. So then I partnered up with one of our gym sponsors. Her name's Tara Sales. She's a mortgage broker. She loves events. She loves the open, loves supporting things. And she said that she agreed that everyone that signs up, she'll get like a custom, I should have worn it today, but a custom shirt jersey. Like, so like kind of like a CrossFit Games looking shirt, but with like, you can change your name on it. And then I said, I donate to a local youth sport charity for every sign up. I think last year I did $10 per person. So that was like that. And I used that as leverage on like, hey, why aren't you doing the open? Do you hate kids? Like what? Right. And then I just, because of course, like if you have some beasts, they're going to do awesome on the leaderboard. But that's partially it's a genetic lottery, depending on who's signed up for your gym on how high they can rank. It's not like we're going to produce a CrossFit Games athlete for the maybe age groups one day, but I was like, well, let's look at this participation leaderboard, because I know I have a good business and I know we have big membership. Like, there's no way we can't like rank pretty high if I push some of my good sales tactics into building it up. And then again, like swimming background, I just want everyone to be involved. I don't care if you're good or not. I don't want to hear the excuse like, oh, I suck, you don't want me in the open. Like, we just want you to be part of it. So 2024, we went all out. And then I was watching that affiliate participation leaderboard, and I wanted to be as a team. There's the CrossFit Canada recurring post of like they do the little top 5. I was like, I just want one post in the top 5, and then also the worldwide one, because I was so early on when it opened up to pressure everybody to do it. Our name was in the worldwide Instagram post. So then it was like, well, and our goal was like, I just want to be like top 3 in BC, and then we'll see where everything else ranks up. So then last year, I think we were 1st in BC, and 4th in Canada, and then 69th in the world. And this year we were 1st in BC by a mile. Like, I think I have to look, more than double second, I think.
Yeah.
3rd in Canada, barely missed 2nd, and then 42nd in the world. And so, which is cool. It's just like, it's not like, oh, it's not Kent's raking. It's TCSC as a group. You know, my team's pushing everybody to do it. And I just want everyone to take ownership of it. So we have these little like cutout kind of banner signs that we put up by like our clock on one of the workout signs. So they're there because I just want people to be proud of it. And because they can contribute to it without even being good at CrossFit, you can just sign up and support it. And what the big takeaway was, so 2024 was like, well, I'll do this, and if it's sick, then I'll continue to affiliate, because if it's this one massive bonanza event that makes a big impact on my gym. And I've really appreciated how CrossFit's done a much better job with class logistics and planning, and the 3 weeks is way better than the 5. So we still just ran kind of classes. So we didn't put everybody into Friday night for all 3 weeks. We ran classes, and we have a 4:30 a.m. class. And, but just the energy from 4:30, 5:30, all the way through the day. And I was stressed about seeing if we could get 160 people through. It was fine. But the 4:30 energy was like, it was like everyone was wired, and then like you finished the workout, they're all cheering. So it was kind of like a little mini Friday Night Lights in the middle of the morning to start, and then all the way through the day. And then we did like a bigger event on this year and last year on the 3rd Friday night. We do a big thing where we get our t-shirts printed at the start, and then they're getting all made, and then we have them all presented on that Friday night. And then there's just like a big energy boost, and it's like very sold as a very like, you can participate. We have these people that have just joined the gym doing personal training, have no idea what anything is, and they're like, oh, okay, I'll sign up. And then we do their little foundations workout without them even knowing.
Yeah.
And it's just the kind of like that, it's that common kind of like dinner conversation that everybody can have about the same kind of shared experience. And I think if you just sell it and spin it right and have a good attitude about it, anybody that wants to be negative or too emotional about it is such a minority with a big number. And I found this with gym ownership too, that when we were a small gym, when we started like 40 members or whatever, the 1, 2, 3, 4 people that like complained felt like they had a voice, because they're a higher
percent. They're 10% basically. Right.
And it sounds bad, but like when you're bigger, if somebody quits, you don't care about the $200 a month as much as when you had 40 members, you know? So it's just nice to shrink that minority down. And then honestly, it's not even an issue anymore anyways, but that 150 people, then they're all into it. Obviously I would love to have even more, because there's still some people that hold out and don't want to do it. But I'm hoping as we get momentum on it, it's just a nice FOMO experience. And there's like that immeasurable retention piece. Like, it's events and things like that are a big part of retention. And you can, even though I had to happy to spend money on charities and whatever, there's that. I'd much rather spend money on retention of the great people that we have than you market to try to get new leads in all the time.
Yeah, I mean, a lady today, her name's Hazel. She's 64. She came up to me and just wanted to thank me and the team for running the open. And it was like the team did all the work. But she wanted to share how proud she was from going from the 16th percentile to the 38th percentile in women 64 and up. And it's like that stuff, that magic never gets old.
No. And yeah, and no one can take that away from her either. Like it's her individual success and she's proud of it. And if she's sharing it with coaches, that makes you guys feel good too. That's a big part of it. And that's what I try to convey with the value. That's why we're doing it. I'm not trying to see who's the best.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely pat people on the back and pump for them if they're crushing the workouts. But top to bottom, everybody matters. And I think that's the most important thing to sell.
What I'm hearing with you is like personal ownership and accountability but I think it's different than like, I'm going to do all the work. I'm going to do it all. It's just, no, I'm going to lead from the front and take ownership over this event, even though it's technically a CrossFit event. It is happening in my business, so I'm going to take ownership of it. I know my core product is my classes, so I'm going to use this thing to bolster the core product that I have, right? As opposed to, I think some folks take the open and steer it completely in an opposite direction of their path.
Yeah, you can. I'd be interested to see what your gym's like too. A lot of my life and business relate back to swimming, but I found this cringy as a swim coach, and very parallel to CrossFit, where gym owners or even just coaches of certain classes can get very tunnel vision on higher level athletes.
Right.
And it's like and I found this probably worse in swimming, especially in the Toronto area, that and competitive swimming, you're really just coaching kids. And you see this one like kind of superstar, they're 16 or whatever, and then maybe they can make the Olympics. And then they think it's like this meal ticket out of here. Like you're going to get this Olympian, then all of a sudden you're at this different status of your life. But at the same time, you got 30 people training in this group or whatever, 20 kids that their parents are paying the fees to be competitive, it's great. It's a competitive sport. And if you hit that level, you deserve recognition and applause. But you can't forget about the people in between or below. And in CrossFit, I've seen the same thing. And it just cringes you. And like, just because someone has whatever, 3-minute Fran time or something, it doesn't mean that they're a more valuable member of your facility, but they definitely deserve an applause for doing workouts that fast. But I just can't stand the hierarchy thing of who matters because of the CrossFit ability. And I don't want to open to golf or put fans to that flame if there was any, but as long as you're upfront about it from the start, that you're definitely going to cheer for the people that are awesome, but everyone still matters. And it's okay if you're not at the top too.
Well, for sure. And I mean, it's interesting how you say swimming has been a huge shape of your life. It's not the fact of being in a pool in the water that has shaped your core values as a person. It's the lessons you learned from competition, the lessons you learned of being coached, the lessons you learned from coaching that I'm guessing has shaped your mold. It's no different than the workout. The open workout itself is mildly interesting versus the lessons you learn from pushing yourself to challenge yourself and then realizing, okay, that's going to help set the tone for my future classes and allow my coaches to continue to build on that, as opposed to just, we're doing this workout, and making the workout the main event. You get what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, the classes are such a base of the pyramid feed for our entire facility and staff and culture and everything. So the more we can enhance that experience, and the movement and the practitioners too. And then it was well worth it because, again, like I said, it wasn't like just Friday Night Lights. That was the ticket for 3 weeks. It was we only did Friday Night Lights really the third week because we just ran classes the other two. But 4:30 in the morning, you could just feel this buzz and like they're cheering, for 3 weeks. And there always is the great class mentality, but there's just something about like having a clipboard and the sheet. And even there's even people that won't put their scores through, which we're totally fine with. But you have your friend on the score sheet going no matter what. And you just try so much harder in that kind of effort. And then just the sense of accomplishment and elevation through our classes is really cool. And I hope everybody coast to coast feels that way. And I don't really like the negativity around some of like the CrossFit stuff right now, because I think it's a very unfair lens to look at it.
Yeah.
But I think, again, like taking ownership from years ago when I didn't have a good attitude about it for other silly reasons, the attitude top down is everything, and it can make a big difference.
Exactly, right? Because really at the end of the day, we're in control of our own little worlds. We can only control the things that happen in our four walls, and we have great control over those things. And it's about the energy you put into it. You know, I've heard Grant Cardone, he's one of the advice gurus out there, the hype people up, but it just says that, you know, it takes the same amount of energy to do something less or to do something more. It's just how you direct that energy is so important.
Yeah. And it's good for me to reflect on too. I know I wish I would have done this years ago. I can make excuses. I didn't have the time or the manpower with another job or experience with it prior, but I just got to take ownership of it and just do better now.
Well, and I think, you know, it's easy to reflect on that in hindsight, but you take, like I said, is you take ownership of it now, but you also take ownership of why it wasn't successful in the past, and being honest in reflection about you just didn't give it your all. And I think what's potentially inspiring to the tens of people listening is there's always room next year to just do it a little bit better, and then a little bit better. And really, isn't that the spirit of the open, is just do a little bit better the next day, the next week, the next month, and that leads you to the next year.
Yeah. And I think that's the lesson for your business too. Like, it's our gym looks great now. I know that. And especially if you're walking in here, you poke around on our website, I know it looks awesome. But it wasn't like an overnight success story. It took a lot of time and just like chiseling tiny little improvements in policies and coaching and formats and, you know, repairs and renovations around the facility. But it's just like a constant kind of obsession with always trying to do better. And it's just snowballs over time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you can treat individual events like that too. You just learn from it, make notes. So I have a little notebook on every single one of my events I've ever run, on just like silly things like, you know, on what time to start or remembering certain types of tape and things like that. It makes a big difference just to do better the next time.
For sure. Well, and like one of my favorite sayings, I just like what it stands for, is overnight success takes a lifetime. And I think if someone were to go to your website or your social media, they would be very blown away, but they would somehow just think that like it's easy. So what's some advice you would give to someone listening, like an affiliate owner listening, who to start making small, subtle changes to start steering that ocean liner?
It's a can of worms. I would say, if you haven't been able to yet, if you can hire full-time staff, the sooner you can get to that point to do that, I think that's the biggest difference that you can make in your business, and hiring the right full-time staff too. Because, and this is one of the things that I'm probably most proud of, is the couple of full-timers that I've had, a handful of them, including the practitioners, the two full-timers in particular, they're about like 10-ish years older than me. So in their mid to late 40s. They both kind of quit their other career jobs to come work with me as a manager and then as a head coach. And not only I'm able to pay them more than what they're making at their other job, the job satisfaction and what they're proud of is pretty awesome to see too. And because they're invested as a full-time employee, you know, they pay their mortgages and have other activities and stuff through our channels. there's just a lot of, they don't have shares in the business, but they act like they do. And all that are my core values and things that are really important to me, hinging on the success of the business, is borderline equally important to them. And there's those full-time ambassadors that really care about the success of the business, not just because it's their full-time job, but just because they're actually just really invested in how successful everything is. So I was able to get to that point, it took a while for me to build the business up enough to afford that. But that kind of like that snowball grind to get there, that opens up like a whole new avenue of possibilities for your business, because there's that full-time investment with just that top quality of care that's here all the time, because they're literally full-time. And then it allows you to continue to do even more things to grow the business, because you're not so tied down with some of the stuff on day to day.
Cool. How can people look up your gym to start snooping?
There's a Instagram is easy. It's TCSC Kamloops. Our website is tcstrength.com. I have a little website. It's coachkent.fit. And we also host a big, for our neck of the woods, event in June this year. It's called the Tournament Capital Classic. It's a mixed pair teams of 2 event. And this will be our 5th year running it.
Cool. And on that note, 3, 2, 1, time.